Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first live stream of the Great Big Plugin Show. For anybody who's not familiar with the show, we've done some plugin episodes in the past, but we thought it would be fun to do a little flip on the whole plugin show on YouTube thing and try doing this as a live stream where you guys get to interact and, yell at me to try different things and also just let us know what you want to see next. So this is going to be a little bit of a different take on like plugin reviews, gear reviews, all that kind of stuff. There are plans to do some outboard gear too. So if you guys have things that you want to see in the hardware world reviewed on the show, let me know. Throw your comments in the chat. And I have this little button here that I'm supposed to press to tell you guys to do things up here. So if you would be so kind, please do like and subscribe and ring the bell for notifications and everything so you know when we go live. Speaking of when, we're going to do this every other Monday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is sort of the off week of our Mix Tank live stream. So one Monday, I'm on here doing Mix Tank, Mix Reviews live, and then the next week will be the plugin show, and then we'll go back to Mix Tank and the plugin show and all of that stuff. So we're back to every single week, Monday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is really exciting. It's the first episode and everything. And the format for the show, we're not always going to announce what the plugin is before we go live. Sometimes we might. We'll kind of play around with it. But we're going to do surprises. And today there are some just insanely smart people in the chat room, I guess. Or it's pretty obvious what we're going to talk about. And that is going to be Spicerack, which is our new plugin from Process.audio. And the exciting thing is that you guys don't see the webpage I just pulled up right now. So yeah, we have some awesome first show stuff happening, which is great. Everybody loves that. So I'll figure that out in a moment. We'll just go to this screen. Let's do this. There. Now you guys got it. Cool. So this is the website. This is our website for Spicerack. Spicerack just launched a couple weeks ago, and if you're not familiar with it yet, it is a creative distortion plugin. Think in the vein of something that would cut your head off or a planet, something like that. But we've got some new twists on it, and we did some things that we thought would be cool to have inside of a plugin. So this one's not really going to be that much of a review show because it wouldn't really be very cool of us to do a review on our own plugin because, of course, it's awesome. But instead, it's going to be more like an overview tutorial thing. And then another thing I want to do with this show is get you guys to drop the plugins that you want to see reviewed live and that you guys also want to be a part of reviewing live in the chat. So same thing with today, like everybody that's here watching live and is in the chat room, you guys are going to be right along commenting. Your comments are on the live stream, so people will see them if they go back to watch this video. So you guys are reviewing things and testing them out as much as I am. So as we go through today, if you say, I want to hear Spicerack on a snare drum, we're going to do that. So yeah, so going through, we'll just check out the website here. So a bunch of fancy graphics at the top. Then there's an overview about the plugin on the webpage. If you hover over these things, they'll give you tool tips on what's going on with it, and you can kind of see everything that's happening. I'm going to talk about that in a second, so we'll just keep on going. But different features are, we've got two modules. There's a drive module, an EQ module. There's some utility modules on the left and right. There's a built-in gate on this thing, which is kind of a new thing for this idea, like with Distortion. 5 different flavors, and we've got some features to do things like a console mode, which will allow you to have the same sensation of pushing things into a console altogether, which we'll get to. So as you go down the website, 5 different distortion types. There's a linear EQ, which is very important. We're going to talk about it. And the console remote that I just mentioned. There's the gate thing. There's 100+ professional presets. I made some of those, so we'll talk about that. It was fun to name presets. And then there's some people that you know there talking about things. You get a free trial on it. If you guys are Puremix Pro members, you already have access to it. Just go to Process.audio, put in your Puremix login, and you can get your license deposited and all that. So without further ado, let's see how the chat room's doing for a second. All right. We're going to, yeah, there's all the slam that button stuff. We're going to go into Pro Tools and try out some different stuff with it. And if you guys have used Spicerack, let us know in the chat what you're thinking of it, if you're finding it useful. And to start off for today, we have a track that if you're a Puremix member, you're probably familiar with it. This is a song called Jealousy. The artist is Brandy Alexander, I believe. And this was tracked at a Puremix masterclass by the one and only Mick Guzowski. So it sounds amazing off the bat, but we're going to have some fun and throw a Spicerack on some things and all that. I also have some other tracks in this session. I have this is a song called Sweet Beast that was recorded with Vance Powell. And I have another one in here called Light Shine Through. This was recorded with Ill Factor and mixed by Jimmy Douglas, and another start to finish that's on the series. But we're going to start out with Jealousy and just going through some examples on it. So let's check out a little bit of this song, and then we'll pull up Spicerack. Here it is. All right, so I've done a little bit of balancing on this, but it's not a mix. This is how it was tracked, which sounds freaking incredible. It's amazing when things are tracked so well that the mix just kind of pulls itself together like that. But okay, so here we have Spicerack. So let's go over some features on it. So we have 5 flavors of distortion across the top. We have drive, tube, amp, lo-fi, and fuzz. All of them different sounds. You can probably guess. You have something in your head about what they're supposed to sound like going into it, which is cool. And then hopefully they're familiar. We'll test it in a minute. Over on the left, we've got our input utility section, and the gate is over here on the input side. Moving to the right, our main drive module. We have the option inside of that drive module to push it another 18 dB at input to really drive the saturation. And then at the bottom, we have something called AGC, or auto gain compensation, which is going to listen to the incoming signal, figure out its LUFS, and then calibrate so that when you crank up the drive, you're not going to be overwhelmed with volume and you get a real world comparison on what Spicerack is doing to your track, if it's helping or not. Following the drive module, we have our EQ module, and lots of interesting stuff here. We can do a high pass. We can change the slope on this high pass. If you want to make it tighter, we have a Q setting on there, and same thing on the low pass filter on top. Can change the slope of it. And then we have one band in the center here, which you can use to kind of further shape the sound as you go. And it's also pretty fun to try and make some alien heads out of there. Try to like make cartoon faces and stuff. That's a good time. Moving to the right of that, we have a tone slider. If you push it up, you can kind of see the EQ changing shape there. We can push it brighter or we can pull it darker. That's fun when you need to just kind of tweak the sound a little bit. And there's bypass on the bottom of that if you don't want to use EQ. And then to the bottom here, we have the linear phase section, which makes this EQ completely linear phase so that if you do a dry wet blend, you're not getting a weird phase thing between what you have processed and how you've carved it up with EQ and what the dry source is. Completely phase accurate. So to the right of that, we have our output section. We can adjust the wet gain on that if we have, kind of brought the level of the signal down a ton, or we've cranked it up a bunch. We can adjust it here, and then we can use the mix knob to do a blend between the dry and wet. So it's another way to kind of dial in that blend a little bit. Below that, we have the master output. I'm gonna guess you guys know what that is. Below that, we have oversampling. So if anybody's out there with Plugin Doctor and wondering if it's going to do aliasing, that's there for you. You can throw that thing into oversample mode and you won't have to worry about it. Okay. One last feature to talk about before we get crazy is console mode. And console mode is intelligent enough to look across your entire session and figure out all of the instances of Spicerack that exist. They'll all show up inside of console mode, and then you can tweak them individually right from here, which gives you a really fast way to work. Up on top, we have the option to set multiple instances to a particular channel. And when we do that, we'll be controlling, in a macro sense, the drive, mix, and output, and the 5 different flavors of them, all from the channel console. So because this is the only instance of Spicerack in my session right now, we're not seeing a bunch of them loaded up. But we're going to do that in a little bit. We're going to try pushing that drum kit through through the channel console. So let's go back to my default here, and let's check this thing out on bass. So here's our bass track. Okay, so just having a little bit, 20 points of drive up, you can already hear a little bit of the like kind of thing thickening up a little bit. And drive is the same distortion that's included in Sugar from Process.audio as well. It's just got an extended bandwidth on it, so it's reaching down a little further, up a little further, and we can kind of push it in the same way. So we also have this plus 18 knob, so we can go pretty crazy with it if we want to. Let's try doing a calibrate on this, and then we'll push some more drive on it. So that calibrate helps to keep things in the ballpark when you're going in and out of bypass. Obviously, we can push too far. We could do the plus 18. Maybe a little crazy, but we could try blending in with the mix. And you can add in that rattle on the amp that you're always looking for when you mic up an actual bass amp and you can't figure out where it is. In fact, I made a preset for this in bass guitar. This is 8x8 one blown speaker. So whether or not that's a useful sound, it's kind of a creative thing, and it's a way I'm going to use the gate. I'm going to show you what I'm doing with the gate here. So inside of our gate, if we click on this button in the upper right, we have the gate's advanced controls, and we have our attack and release, and there's a side chain on there. You can listen to the side chain and kind of tweak it in. You've got your overall gain reduction, so how much you're going to pull things down, and then you've got a threshold slider here. So what I set this up to do was anytime that the bass pushes hard, I was like, just for fun and using it in the creative distortion sense, trying to mimic what would happen if you push an amp too hard that isn't really in the best of shape. So that's what we have going on here as it goes over. And then for this particular bass, I might increase the release to let that go a little smoother. But the more important thing about the gate section is that you can go into it with this idea of, I want things to saturate, but only when they're actually pushed. And then you can use the gate to kind of shape that and give it that sensation. So let's check out some other stuff here. Inside of bass, we have one, I believe from Alberto, called Imagining Dragons. So this is a lo-fi setting. Let's check it out. Yeah, crazy. It's just doing the low bit fuzz thing. Not for this bass, but let's check out the tube section. The tube, I definitely love this mode on bass guitar, and this is again just on the DI. Okay, so another fun thing we can do is with the button in the middle, we can flip the EQ to the first in the signal chain, first point in the signal chain, or to come after the drive module. So if I didn't want to hit it with the low end as much, I could do a high pass here. And then I could pull the mix back to bring back some of the low end on it. We started here. And let's check out this riff with Spicerack on. So that's kind of the idea. We can use it to just add a little bit of grit to the top end of it, maybe leave the low end alone. Some cool things that we can do with bass. Let's go check it out on electric guitar. I've got a fun example for this one. So here is our guitar part. This is an awesome sounding guitar. And what I'm going to do for this one is I have a preset I made in here called Roll Back the Tone. And here it is. So this is completely just lopping off some top end, but I was looking for something where I wanted to, in a mix, be able to, kind of simulate for clean guitars like this if somebody was just kind of rolling back the tone as it was being recorded. So I'm going to take the mix and I'm going to pull it all the way to 0. And then as I move the mix up, the idea is that you're rolling back the tone up. And then we could get more extreme with it if we cut a little bit more of the top end or, pulled in some more of this like attacky range on this particular guitar. But I'm also using the drive circuit in tube mode to kind of push some of the low mids a little bit too. As you would roll back the tone, you might push it into the amp a little bit harder. So that was kind of what was going through my head with that one. Again, this is kind of what I love Spicerack for, is just like these creative ideas of, I want to create this thing. I wish that the player had rolled back the tone a little bit, or if we had pushed the bottom of the amp a little bit harder, what would have happened with that kind of stuff? Very, very cool for that. And then, as usual, just for like warming up tracks the way that you would with a decapitator kind of a thing. Let's see what else we got here. Check you guys out in the chat. So we got a couple questions. One person was asking if this is included with the 3-month or just the annual. So if you are an active Puremix member, you get Spicerack included with your membership and all of the Process.audio plugins, as well as Mix-up. Let's see. Okay, so Matthias is asking, does Spicerack get EQ before and after saturation? Yep, just as you saw there. This one right now is before. Hit the button and then we'll swap it to after. Everybody digs auto gain. Awesome. And 6 of 1 just got done soldering some connections in his amp yesterday. Well, if you ever need to go back to your broken amp, you can do that in here as well. Another preset I think is in bass maybe. My friend's amp. Yeah, so here's like another broken amp sim kind of idea. This would be on the electric guitar now. I've heard worse. Okay, let's see what else we got here. So I'm going to say, if you guys have requests, let me know what you want to hear it on. There's a piano inside of this song that I think Spicerack will be awesome on. So I'm going to go over to my piano, pull up Spicerack, throw it in bypass. And hold on one second, we have a little latency issue. Let's see. I have a delay compensation thing going on. Let's try that. Okay, so there's the piano. It's got some hammer mics on it, and there are, let's see, I remember the hammer mics, and then there's some mics on the strings. And I think it would be cool if we try to get some harmonics out of that piano. So I'm going to pull it out of bypass. Okay, so I just used the EQ to kind of push some stuff up there, and then I'm going to try driving it a little bit. Can you hear the tube's a lot darker than what we have in drive? So here's from drive to tube again. Here's drive. Just for fun, let's go through the other three. Cool, and just for the original idea of I wanted to pull some harmonics out of this, I'm going to go back to drive. Let's try the EQ before the distortion. And let's take that. I pulled all the low end out of it before the drive, and I'm just going to blend it in with the mix knob. It's adding just a little bit of top to the piano in a different way, a different texture than what just regular EQ would. So that's kind of fun. And then in the mix, we'll go in and out with Spicerack. And kind of a fun way to just add some top to it. Let's see here. So everybody's asking about the console emulation stuff. So let's check it out. That's what we'll do next. Primetime says Spicerack in your DAW logic. You have more than 32 parameters that you can automate. That's amazing. I didn't know that. Thanks, Primetime. Okay. K-Kids was asking how much it is. Again, it's if you have a Puremix membership, it's included in your membership, or I believe it's $149 to buy individually if you're not a Puremix member and you don't want to be, but you should be because it's awesome. And there is a 7-day trial, I believe. All right. Indigo is asking, are the distortion modules generic or do they simulate specific hardware? So the first one is the same drive algorithm that we use in our plugin called Sugar. And then from there, they're just different tweaked and selected by the team algorithms that are not necessarily based on any particular piece of gear. So it's not like if you pull up the tube, it's going after a 610 kind of thing or anything like that. But yeah, all kind of hand selected. So suppose you could say generic, but that sounds like saying cheap instead of affordable. So okay, let's see what else we got here. Let's go over to our drums and let's play with some console emulation here. So I'm going to take Spicerack and I will put it, we have kick, snare, rack, floor, hat, ride, and overhead. And I think I'm just going to push it on, we'll do the kick, snare, rack, floor, and the overhead. We'll add Spicerack here. And then I saw Chris Shaw in the comments a minute ago, and what we're going to do right now is use one of Chris's SoundFlow scripts, which if you guys aren't hip to SoundFlow, check it out, soundflow.org. Chris Shaw made some amazing scripts. For example, what I'm going to do is copy the track data on this first instance of Spicerack where I set the channel to 1. So now I've got this in my settings, and I'm going to go to the snare, the rack, the floor, and the overhead, and I'm going to tell it to paste the inserts. And it's going to, I already had Spicerack pulled up on them, so bad example, but I just pasted in that instance of Spicerack. Now you'll see all those guys are set to channel 1. So thanks for that, Chris. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the console. And now that I've got multiple Spicerack instances inside of the session, we can see them all in here in the console remote. So I've got the kick, the overhead, the snare master. There's OH1, which is coming up because of left and right instance of the overheads. And then I've got floor, rack tom, and all that. So up at the very top here, if I grab the drive knob and I start spinning it, you'll see all of those drive knobs are following suit. And then same thing with the mix. I can twist this guy. And then the fun thing at the top is that it's just continuous. You can just make it spin forever. But that's because multiple knobs could all be at various, positions and all that stuff. So you kind of need to do it that way. All right, so let's be reasonable and pull that back down. And we'll just kind of blend it in. I'm going to start off with the tube emulation, and we'll just we'll start driving some things into it. Here we go. We started here. Oh, no, we didn't start there. Hold on a second. We started. I'm going to use the master bypass inside of the console remote here. And it looks as though I don't have everybody in tube mode. So let's put everybody in tube. We started here. There we go. This is one of the fun things about doing a plugin thing live. I had to get my buttons right here. So we started here. Now I'm going to bring in the plugin and bring up the mix knob. And it's kind of hard to improve on something that Mick Guzowski's tracked, but we'll just keep playing here. I got the drum kit in solo now, and not using the hat and the ride mic. Let's go to drive. On tube, you can kind of hear the top end goes away as soon as we start pushing it up. And then let's just go crazy for a minute. Let's go over to lo-fi. I love what that's doing to the hat. Not necessarily for use in the song. It would kind of be the wrong application, but you can start to hear how some of these things would be really cool for different drum loops and everything. Let's check out fuzz. Let me go over to the console remote and switch everybody into fuzz. So if I go into any one of the instances and I start tweaking it on, for example, on the EQ, that is not grouped and that would just stay flat on any of the other ones. So you still have some ability to get in there on an individual basis and tweak things up. And you can do it in the console remote on any of the other parameters too. So for example, if I decided I wasn't really digging it on the overheads, I could just pull the mix all the way back and get something like that, which is pretty fun. Awesome, Fab. Glad you guys are digging it. Let's see. So, yeah, Andigo points out that because of the addition of EQ in the console, this works really well as an insert, which is the advantage of digital plugins. Digital is definitely making that linear phase thing happen. That's just awesome to me that you can get so tweaky with it and then do the mix knob thing and not have the usual phasey issues, which is great. Okay, so over to my friends in the chat room. You guys are driving the show. What do you guys want to hear this on next? I have those other tunes pulled up. We could do like a lo-fi like pop drum loop. That would be a fun thing. And we could also do, yeah, we could do a gate thing with that loop as well. And I'm curious what you guys want to do for the next plugin show too. Do you guys have any crazy plugins that you've heard of that you'd love to try out? We can check them out on the show. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take all these other Spicerack guys off because I'm using oversampling. Sometimes the delay compensation can get a little crazy for me. So let me go over here, and I've got these other songs pulled up. So I'm going to go to Light Shine Through. And let's pop over here to our drum loop. Here we are. Yeah, I'm here. All right. Primetime asks, Mark, would you also use the Spicerack effects in parallel or directly on the mix bus? So Spicerack so far, I've been using it completely in insert. Where I'm using it on a individual sound basis where I'll just kind of like shape something. I'll do it pretty quick. And then I'll use the mix to kind of blend in how much of that I want. Where the mix comes into handy, this is the important part because with distortion plugins, you think, well, if you want less distortion instead of a mix knob, wouldn't you just turn the drive back? And not necessarily, because you might want to, really push it to the point where like the top end's getting saturated in some of those modes. And you don't want a ton of that, so you just use the mix knob. With the EQ inside of Spicerack, it becomes a little bit more obvious that you would want to have the option to blend it in parallel like that. But hopefully that answers your question. I haven't really tried it on the mix bus, to be completely honest with you. We could do that on the Jealousy tune. Actually, let's do that now. You've got my interest piqued. So, okay, back to Jealousy. Thank you again to Brandy Alexander for letting us use a song. And I'm going to go over to the master bus and let's just see what happens. I don't believe I've tried this yet. So let me find my button. Okay. Guys, at some point we're going to do a whole thing on at Soundflow and try to get some fun people on here because I haven't actually done a plugin show on Soundflow yet. We've covered it a ton on the channel, and I probably sound like a broken record for anybody who's seen more than one live stream, but Soundflow is awesome. Okay, so here we are in the master bus. I got the vocals out for now because, again, I haven't really mixed this. I just kind of did a balance for the purposes of demonstration here, so let's see what happens. I'm going to pull the drive all the way down. We'll start out in drive mode and just see if something cool happens. So I did automatic gain compensation, did the calibrate. Let's start bringing it in. Spicy. So as you know, as I start pushing it in, you start getting that natural like compression that happens from distortion and everything. Let's keep going. Okay, so to hear the effect, if you really hone in on the transient of the snare, you'll hear that just gets soaked up completely. And I'm only at 3 points on the drive knob here, so it's not we're not doing a ton to it, but you can still hear its effect on there. So I'm going to start with it bypassed, and then I'll bring it in. And I brought back the output of the distorted one a little bit so that we're definitely not fooled by a volume thing. And this isn't a better thing. This is just a listen to what it does to the transient thing. So here we go. Oh, you guys lost the direct sound from Pro Tools. My bad. First show. Here we go. We're back. All right. Here we go. And then let's put it in. And again, out, we're listening to that transient on the snare. So it's just kind of clipping off the top of it. Let's, kind of go over to the tube module, see what that sounds like. So here's starting out in bypass. Yeah, so kind of darkening the top of the mix. And then obviously we have our EQ too. So there's, whew, ouch. Don't do that. That's probably not a preset or anything. So yeah, I mean, maybe very subtly on the mix bus to answer your question, could be cool. Let's see if Alberto might have put some presets in here. So here we go. Less is more. Here's a mix bus preset. Which kind of the same thing that we stumbled on earlier about 3 points of the drive felt pretty good. Let's check it out in bypass. Just a little subtle push. And then let's see what else he's got. He's got a mix opener. Let's see what that's all about. Start in bypass and then I'll bring it in. Yeah, so there's some stuff in there. Might be a cool use case. Let's go over to yes. So Matthias, I'll get to your question in 1 second. So let's go over to that drum loop sound. There's something fun to be had over there, and I'm going to take it off of the master bus. Here we go. Okay, so Matthias asks, Mark, would it be possible to add one EQ before saturation and one EQ after it in the same rack? Unfortunately, no. It's not like some of the other plugins that you've seen where it's almost like a 500 series rack and you have the EQs before and after. And I believe that the reason for that is because of the linear phase functionality of that. I really can't, unless you're going for a specific effect. I actually struggle to think of a case where you wouldn't want the linear phase EQ. There is one, I'm sure. Obviously it'll, reduce the processing power if you're not using linear phase on there, but I believe that it would just add so much latency if you had two instances of that. That would be the reason that we don't have that in there. But it's a great idea. I suppose that outside of the mix knob, if you were wanting EQ before and after and you had the mix knob at anything other than 100%, you would need an EQ there. So yeah, that makes sense, but you might be able to get it through some tweaking to get similar sounds with it. Of course, if you had the mix knob at 100%, you could just throw an EQ after the plugin and you'd be all set, but hope that helps. All right, let's see what we get out of this. Okay, so we got some suggestions for the next plugin. We got Soothe 2, Convology, Shaperbox 3, and I don't see any other ones yet. Let me know if you got some other ones you want to check out. Okay, here is our drum loop. I'm going to play this in bypass. And I've already kind of dialed something up for this that I thought was cool as an example. So here's our dry drum loop. So that backbeat sound is really, really harsh. So to kind of tame that a little bit, I'm using another plugin from the Puremix Pro Member Suite. This is not our plugin. This is from Pulsar. It's an 1178, but it's included with every Puremix Pro membership. I just picked it because it's something that if you're a Pro member, that's probably why you're here. You got our email, and so I'm trying to show you guys tools that you have access to for this example. But I used the 1178 side chain that this is a drum loop, so it's all together. So I shaved off the kick and everything, and then I'm boosting around the range that clap is happening to kind of give my side chain a little bit of boost going into the compressor so I can tame that down. I didn't really want to affect the kick with this. So here's the dry loop. With our 1178. And then I could slow down the attack if I wanted to bring some more of that clap back up. Go back to the beginning. Okay, so that's in an okay spot. The clap's not ripping my head off anymore. And then I have this, sort of preset that I dialed in to show you guys uses for this. But I just wanted to clip the top of the clap here. So let's just check it out. Or I'm sorry, the kick. So here's our dry signal with the 1178 on it. And then I've got some tube going on here. I've got about 58 points of tube. The gate is in, and I've focused the distortion on the bottom end post-saturation. And then I've got that blended in at about 28%. Let's take a listen. So just adding a little fatness to the kick. If I throw that in bypass again, here's our original. Kick enhancement. Now, I think it gets a little bit flubby on the very bottom of it, and it's actually extending the note of the kick drum. It's making it a little bit longer, which is kind of messing with the groove for me. So I'm going to take our high pass filter, and I'm going to make a steeper slope. I'm going to start with 24, and I'm just going to tighten up the bottom a little bit. Without the high pass. And width. Just a little bit shorter. It's pretty subtle, but if you have a sub or if you hear the bottom, you can kind of hear that in. Yeah, so that is Spicerack used to enhance a drum loop along with the 1178. So as a reminder, we started here completely dry. Tamed out the top a little bit with some sidechain EQ on the 1178. And then fattened up the bottom using Spicerack and some linear phase EQ on there. Now on the gate for this, important note, I used the sidechain EQ, and if we just listen to the sidechain EQ, so I made the gate really just pay attention to the kick because I just wanted to saturate the kick and make it bloom a little bit. So that's another awesome use for the gate. It's just be able to focus it in on what it is that you want to destroy. Distort, destroy, saturate, have fun with it, Okay, so I think that's it for Spicerack for today. I got some requests for Bass Lane Pro. That sounds cool. I've never heard of that. There is, guys, I want to tell you about this plugin I saw over the weekend give me a second. I gotta look it up for the name of it, but while I'm looking it up, I'll tell you what it is. It is this, okay, M Voice, EM Voice. You guys should check this out. It's mvoiceapp.com. And this thing is insane. It kind of looks like Melodyne. You play some MIDI into it, and then you select a voice that you want. Then you type words on the notes that are on the, MIDI graph that you have, and it will play back a human voice for you. Actually, I have it installed here, so I'll just show you guys while we're here. This is one of the fun parts of being live. We can do this. Okay, totally off topic. Check this out. This is M-Voice. We're not going to listen to it right now. If you guys want me to do a show on it, you have to tell me in the comments and make a request for it and all that. Comes with a bunch of different voices. I haven't bought any yet. I haven't really played with it too much. I made Fab one song. But yeah, then there's Lucy, Jay, Thomas, and Keela. Fab, I had no idea when I sent him the song. He said that he was a longtime fan of Keela. So, there it is. But yeah, you guys should all go look at this and let me know if you want to do a plug-in show on this song. I think we'd have a lot of fun with it. We'd make some crazy vocal lines and everything. But it's kind of interesting. All right. Let's see. So if you have any questions on Spicerack or want to hear it on some more examples, tell me in the chat now before we get out of here. And I'm going to try out this YouTube thing. Let's go over to here. We're going to do a little thing where I think I can open up a Q&A for you guys. This will be part of the fun of doing this live is we're going to try and do some of this interactive stuff. Let's see here. Somewhere I can do that. I think we're good on the poll for what plugin we're going to do. We'll figure it out for next time. Just let me know if there's any other plugins you guys want to do, and we'll plan it for the next show. Yeah. Primetime, the Fab did a video of using Spicerack, and it's amazing. Absolutely great. Let's see. Is the gate in the sidechain only or the dry signal too? The gate is in the dry signal as well if you want it to be here. Let's see. Or it is in the dry signal, not even if you want it to be. So check this out. If I put the mix up at 100% and we listen to this loop, I've got the gate engaged. And the question was from SR1B, is the gate in the sidechain only or the dry signal too? So now we're at 100% mix. Here we go. And if I turn the gate off, so it is in the dry signal to be clear. It's not in the sidechain because we're basically just gating the sound that's going into the drive. So it's all sidechain at that point. But I was bringing the mix back to just use that low end bloom of this. And as I'm doing that, kind of what I'm listening for is the balance between the kick drum and the clap or the backbeat. Cool. Paul says anything soundable would be cool. Sonic EQ. Oh, I didn't have sound. I was showing you guys again. I'm going to have to get used to this. All right. Sorry. Here we are. So here is the gate 100% mix. And so it's always feeding the drive. You guys heard me talk. But then I was just bringing this back to kind of get a blend between the kick and the backbeat. So. Yeah. Cool. So there's that. Sorry about the direct sound thing. All right. So we've got some votes for Basslane Pro from Tone Projects, Pulsar Smasher. There was Convology, Shaperbox 3. And I'll tell you what, before we get out of here, let's do a poll and have you guys vote on it. All right, so which plugin should we do next? And we've got Basslane Pro, Convology. Let's add some options here. You guys all see my stuff. Let's go back to here. All right, Convology. Shaper box 3. And I'm going to add M voice. And let's see, we'll do, yeah, we'll just do that. You guys can vote there. We'll see if we choose one of those. All right. So there is the poll. Oh, Primetime's asking if we're going to do a studio tour. We are going to do that eventually, but I don't have a mobile camera set up for right now. So we'll go back to that in another show. SR1B says, I don't understand how the calibrate function works. Yeah. So if I'm over here in Spicerack, let me get kind of the default preset going here. Okay. So this is the default preset. I've got this drum loop. Here is the before. And again, because you didn't hear what I was doing. And then if I bring in Spicerack, and let's just say I've got 20 points of drive right now, and if I just keep pushing it, naturally, as I start adding drive, we start getting compression. The general average level of the sound goes up because we're kind of compressing it and limiting it and doing all that. So what I'm going to do is hit calibrate and then let it play, let Spicerack learn the material. And then as we bring it up, we won't have that gain boost and we can make more accurate decisions when we go into bypass. So here we go. All right, so it calibrated it. It's saying minus 17 LUFS. And then as we bring up the drive, we should have a fairly consistent sound. So it's just helping to kind of smooth out the volume difference as it goes. And that's a general thing. You know, if you add drive or distortion to something, you're boosting up the level and getting a bunch of, you know, confusing gain stuff with it. So sorry, let's see. SR1B, let me know if that makes sense. It's basically just helping you keep your gain stage intact and be able to do valuable A/B comparisons. Cool. Sonable Smart EQ. Nice. That would be a good one. Awesome. All right. So let me see over in our poll how we're doing with that. And I think what we'll do next time, we'll run this poll at the beginning of the show, and then we'll have a pretty good idea over what to do next. All right. So right now, Shaperbox 3 is in the lead. Shaperbox 3. I don't even think I know what that is. Shaperbox 3. Cable guys, huh? Here, let me pull up the browser for you guys. All right, so this is the plugin that's being requested over in the poll there. It's the leader right now. I've never seen this before. There's some people talking about it there. Huh. All right, it's got 9 plugins inside of it. Lots of modules. Looks pretty interesting. There's quite a bit in there. Tape stop, that sounds cool. Yeah, maybe we'll check this out on the next one. All right. You know what I would love if you guys requested is, you know, just saying, those new Moog plugins that came out, they look pretty awesome. The original Moog display, or the Moog delay that was in Pro Tools, the old Bomb Factory one, was one of my favorite plugins ever, and it's not, or wait, now it is available again, I believe. But yeah, that plugin is amazing. And if they have a new version, I'd love to hear it. Yeah, I do even have it. So yeah, I have some of these guys. These are the old Bomb Factory versions, but Moog actually came out with a whole suite of new ones. Have any of you guys tried those out yet? Let me know. Primetime says, I'd love to see a mix done only with sugar. That would be intense. That would definitely be intense. Interesting. You guys should write Fab and see if he'll do a mix all in sugar. That would be amazing. All right. Let's see what you guys say on the poll. And then I think that we'll be wrapping up our first show. Thanks for hanging with me through the technical stuff. First time out. So we're figuring a couple things out with the setup. All right, we have a tie between Baselane Pro and Shaperbox 3. I'm going to close the voting down in a couple seconds here. And still getting over a little cold, so forgive my chappy voice. All right. Couple more seconds, and I'm closing down the poll. So while I'm waiting for you guys to finish up on the voting, this Friday, we have an update to the Michael Brower video coming out. Sorry, excuse me, 1 second. Gonna do a little cough. Okay, update to the Michael Brower video this Friday. So in his template video, there was a portion of the calibration that a lot of you guys had questions about. So we went back and we shot an update to the video explaining exactly how he calibrates his A, B, C, D, and E buses in there. So it shows you exactly how he goes to make sure that the compressors are sitting at the right level and doing exactly what he wants. That'll be out this Friday. It'll be added into the regular video, so you can check that out. We currently have a giveaway going on with Loughton Audio. You can register to win some microphones with them on the site, puremix.net. Go to giveaways, and you can check it out there. Sign up. It's easy to do. And then coming up shortly after that is we are releasing an entire Beatles series. So the team went to Abbey Road with Ken Scott in Abbey Road Studio 2, and they brought a band called the Fab Four. It's one of the best Beatles cover bands out there, and they basically walk through exactly how the Beatles were recorded in 4 different eras. So it's epic. It's amazing. Everybody's been working really hard on it, and you guys are going to totally love it. Okay. Awesome. Here we go. I'm going to hit end poll. And the winner is, it's a tie, Baselane Pro and Shaperbox 3. All right, we'll see. We'll see which one of those we do for the next show. We won't tell you till we're live, so make sure you guys tune in. I'll see you guys back here in 2 weeks for another episode of The Great Plugin Show. I'll be back here next Monday for an episode of Mix Tank. Submit your mixes. We'll talk about them live on the air. And I appreciate everybody coming. That was a blast. See you next time.